Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Lee Jensen, and this is the weekly gathering of the I&E Network. We do a series of what we call master's courses to help train our members who are all artistic, creative people trying to turn their hobby into a business. And we do a series of master's presentations throughout the year between now and next summer that are aimed at specific business targets, concepts that really are significant and important. And it's interesting, in this is our ninth year, the beginning of our ninth year, and in all this time I've never really zeroed in on, I've come close to it a time or two, talking about selling and business and how to make the selling effort a little bit better. But over the summer I've had occasion to bump into it several times. The idea of selling on a more designed basis, a little more pattern, a lot more professionalism, instead of just throwing mud on the wall and hoping that something sticks. I decided that maybe now is a really good time to get a little bit closer to the actual techniques. And my chime in my hallway is going off, so I'm right smack on time. Welcome to all of you that are out there watching on YouTube or on the Google Plus channel, or we're going to see it later. I think this is perhaps the most important series that I've ever done. Deciding to sell is what business really is. What you sell and how you sell it and everything involved with that is generally a fairly complicated subject. But I find far too many people they'll spend a ton of time learning to do the artwork or the crafting, the production of the product, and then they say, yeah, that's what I made and that's how cool it is, and it took me 90 million hours to do, and therefore it's worth X amount of dollars. And their selling process is so poor that you just stand back and go, how in the world do you sell anything? Which is basically they don't. And when we get into this presentation today, I've done a PowerPoint that I want to go through and kind of give you an overview of where we're going to go in these next 8 shows to try and help you do a better job of your selling. I've come up with a new trick. I've got a new thing that may help you reconsider everything going on in the selling process, because it's not the same for everything in the marketplace. I've got a couple of magazines that I picked up just recently. This is the new Cowboys and Indians magazine, and this is the new Rob Report. Now, if you've been around in any of my shows before, you know that I love these two magazines. They're extremely strong in the market niches that we like to play with. And if you were to say, why do magazines exist? What goes on here? Is this just to read and entertain, or is it to sell something? I mean, if a magazine, they make their money on their ads that they sell, not otherwise. Excuse me. And so if that's the case, then if this doesn't sell for the advertisers that are in it, their money's gone fairly quickly, and so is the magazine. So any magazine that's been around as long as these two have really have their finger on the pulse of the customer. They're extremely good at selling their advertising, extremely good at selling a particular concept. And each editor is in charge of making absolutely certain they stay on target, so that they then therefore work. And trade shows are a similar kind of a marketing effort. If you go to a home and garden show, you got a pretty good idea who's going to buy a ticket and come through the door. If you go to a gun show, you've got a good idea who's going to come. You've got a good idea if they're a motorcycle show or event or a truck and car event. So each of these, once they figure out how to attract a particular kind of customer, then they have something that they can really sell the advertising to. And so it starts to be a lot more specific and a lot more targeted than I think most people realize. And when it is that specific, what we're really after is trying to get people to get better at figuring out what those tactics really are. How do you target your efforts, and how do you do it on a little bit more predictable pattern basis than you do otherwise? Debbie's in with us now. Can you hit your microphone and put your mute on, Deb?
Hold on.
There we are.
Is that better?
Nope. Just put your mute on, dear, while I get this going tonight. And then we'll take it off later.
Well, I'm just going to say hi to everybody. I'm going to just watch you from the other. I'm in Virginia, and I'm having to take care of the grandkids right now. So.
Okay, do that. Debbie Corman, everybody. One of our up-and-coming stars. Good to have you here, Deb. All right, let me launch this screen share, and we'll get this show on the road tonight. Let's hide that, and then let's go pull this up, and we'll launch our show. This is the 9th season of what I've called the Artistic Business Academy now. We've done webinars consistently now for this 9-year period of time. And it really is something that we're all trying to develop and grow as an organization, as a group. We're around the I&E was started a number of years ago to help people discover they had some talent, to do whatever it took to develop and master that talent, and then learn to share it in the marketplace better. And we've been at it for a number of years, and so when you start to realize you're on to something, the specific business training of how does business really work, I think helps. I think it really, we develop things that seem to be a little bit better in the process. So from whatever position in the marketplace and the economy you're coming at tonight, I'm hopeful that this will be a beginning of a session that might actually really be a transition for you. The Inspiration and Encouragement Network was started a number of years ago to bring together all of us who had an interest in not only developing our own businesses, but in developing each other's as well. And as long as you can kind of see that that's what's going on, the I&E is a sponsor tonight, the Profitable Hobbies Corporation is a sponsor, and what we're going to do is take on a new trick to better selling. Something that I think might change your thinking a little bit and hopefully influence the next few years of your life when it comes to the selling process. You don't have to be crazy to move into this selling career, but it really helps. And the more I've looked at it, and the more I've studied it and worked with it over my years, the trick really is competent, persistent enthusiasm. And CPE is what I'm going to kind of zero in here now for you and help you begin to realize that once you get something going, it's helpful to continue to see if you can't enhance that, whatever. I just launched this yesterday, and I've been playing around with the idea that Google Plus Crazy is a real concept, because if you do much with Google Plus, you can get pretty addicted in a hurry. And yet, with all of this going on, I've been playing with a concept called hashtag this, and then I fill in the blank with something that I've hashtagged as well. So I put it up yesterday, and in the first day I got 13 people, well, 12 people, there's one more now, new members. And so next year when I do this show at the same time, then I go back and begin to see, has this grown? Has this made some progress? Am I hitting the button, right button, to keep everybody else involved? And what really excites me is when I'm looking at something and then some unexpected things happen that reinforce the kind of concept that I'm considering, or that I'm chewing on, or that I'm trying to learn and develop. And you can call it anything you want, but it usually boils down to an opportunity right there. The kind of things that are coming along, and they just nudge you a little here and nudge you a little there, and then I start really paying attention to it. Yesterday, Bill came up. This is a photographer in Australia, and Tammy and I were taking painting classes, and I spotted this picture that Bill had taken of his daughter, and this is the first painting that I have tried with oils. And so I'm at the undercoating stage now. I've got the blouse doing quite a bit better. Still got a lot of work to do on her face, but I got the headdress just about right too. And so we're not too far from going ahead and putting the color into this whole thing. But Bill has been, I got a hold of him on Google Plus and asking him if I could use his daughter, his photograph, to copy. And you don't have to do that when you're doing something for yourself and it's not a commercial aspect. You can take something like that that would obviously be copyrighted. But I wanted him to know. And so I began interacting with him more and more. And you just cannot believe. If you go to his website now and see just how much he's done this last year, and every photograph is that child, that beautiful little daughter. And he puts her in these really unusual outfits, and then he pulls her into photography that is just absolutely unbelievable. I love what he's playing with. Between genius and crazy, I like to use that line as a jump rope. And so we're going to talk about this eccentric side to business and marketing and sales that literally can produce more and more for you in the marketplace. I want to start for the benefit of those that don't know me. We've had quite a bit of reaction throughout the network and off of Google Plus lately. And so for all of you that don't know me, somebody's microphone is going crazy. Can you get your mics off and keep it off, please? I was a dentist for 15 years, didn't like dentistry much, and started looking at hobbies, and my hobby just kind of took over my whole life. I invented what's called the power pen, the Paragraver, in 1977, put a company together and started a company selling and marketing it in 1983. Evolved into paragraphics when we pulled sandblasting and airbrushing into it in 1990. Then we founded the I&E Network in 95, which is the supporting entity for all the systems that we've sold. And then we shifted to profitable hobbies in 2002. It's when Tammy took over, and that's the internet name for what started out as Paragraph. I've also written a book that I'm really proud of called Opportunity Intersection, which is the first world business plan. How in the world do you take a hobby and turn it into a successful business? We started a 7-step master's program to take a person from an apprentice, an amateur, to something of some degree of mastery of something unique. If you don't have this Bible for the master's program, get a hold of Tammy and she can email this to you. It's an ebook that we have now that's kind of a more of an outline of what we're doing and what we're about in trying to help people overcome being an amateur their whole life. I don't think there's any question that the secret of our talent is still buried inside all of us. As much as we have done, there's still a lot of room to improve. And life isn't just how much you can fit into it. It really helps if you're specialized in what you're doing and what you're offering in the marketplace and the economy. The more general you go at it, the more difficult it actually becomes. We're actually starting something new now called the STARS team. We're going to try and train members of our I&E network how to sell our systems. We've always done it as a company and have mixed with some of you that have found ways to sell those kits, but we have sold 30,000 systems in 32 years. And when you realize what we've done and what we've accomplished, to me, it really is something that has kind of evolved over this 30-year period, but it's evolved in a way that sustained itself. If it weren't making the kind of money, we started out with about 80,000 in sales the first year. By 1990, we were doing $1 million. In 95, we were doing $5 million a year in sales. Then it's gradually split into 3 different companies now, organizations, the I&E Network, and Frontier Swiss is the machining side of the business, and Profitable Hobbies. Now, if we can do this kind of thing to help sustain the sales in the company and have this kind of directional growth, it's the system that made this thing work. It's the concept that we sell is a package to help you actually make it work. Tomorrow we're going up to Park City to see Denny Wainscott's coming again. He's one of our masters from Indiana. And Denny is going to participate in the same show that I started with. My very first event marketing effort was the Park City Art Show. And I've told the story often, and I'll tell it again here in the next one of these next sessions. I had no clue what I was doing, and I almost hit the brick wall big time. But I did manage to sell 34 $100 card eggshells that weekend, and it was strong enough my very first time at it. I was really encouraged to kind of continue to try and find and make it work. But we've had nearly $100 million in sales in a 30-year period. And if you consider the fact that it's a system that we sell, and this isn't my first rodeo by any means, the idea of building a new selling team of people that can figure out how in the hell do we sell a system, a paragraphic system, engraving, sandblasting, and airbrushing, to so many people and so many customers that are out there. My goal now is to teach our gang how to sell these kind of systems really well, because we've done well. And I'm submitting that if we know how to sell a package, then we can sure teach you how to sell a package as well. And there's now 80 million people our age trying to figure out how in the world to retire. What can I do? And a profitable hobby is every bit as appealing now as it was when we first started. So I want you to think between now and next week what you think it is that we sell, because we've got to figure out what nail to pound if we're going to make this work. To make this process of selling, you really have to understand what is it that people are buying and what is it that we sell. Now, Tammy's been on the phone selling most of those years, and I think the #1 factor in selling our systems is credibility and trust. They spend a fair amount of money on our package, and if they sense at all that we're not really of some substance, then they will not buy. And we've had the exact same 800 number now for 30 years. And Tammy's always got a Pomeranian in her life, at her lap or at her feet. This one was Duchess for a long time, so when you get a hold of Tammy at that phone number, there's going to be Duchess and now Missy somewhere close by at hand every second. I started my own life in this general direction in a sequence of 7 10-year periods. So I kind of made a plan of what I wanted to do. I graduated from high school in 1963, graduated from dental school in 1973, started Paragraph in 1983, started Paragraphics in 1993, and Profitable Hobbies in 2003, and then passing and on now. This is my last 10-year period. And what I want to share most is this same concept. I'd like to see it continue and go on into the marketplace and the economy, because we have found something absolutely incredible about hobbies, and particularly more of a professional hobby. And when I started putting my book together and then did my video filming for the business plan that I call Opportunity Intersection, it really was a 10-year effort to get this whole thing done and get in a position where I think it generally really will help someone as they begin to go into the marketplace. Now, I've done quite a few pages that I am putting together and building on Google+. And this is the tool that I'm going to use to begin to figure out. I've been at it now for 4 years trying to figure out how in the world do you sell something with social media, because it's just not the same as every other effort that we've made in this 30-year period. And I don't see very many people doing very well at selling. You can put in a ton of time and you can mix all you want, but when it comes down to getting a check for something or a credit card for something, there's a few that are doing okay, but the majority are not. Jensen Innovation is where my sons and I take ideas and concepts and turn them into reality, and we're going to continue to develop and grow that. I've got #this that I'm growing that I think is going to be a concept that could catch on. I'm excited about Google Crazy, and I've played this year with the Creative Zoo. I want to teach creativity and nudge that along as far as I can for the rest of my days. And then the digital journal. Having a journal, a way to measure your progress, is just a really significant tool. I moderate 27 communities, and Google Plus allows you to put up a community, and then you can gradually grow the relationship of each of these different communities. And Google helps you manage them. It's the most amazing business tool that I have ever seen in my entire life. And I'm going to continue to play with it, because out of these efforts, gradually the evolution starts to show you that this one right here has been the best one so far, the one that most people have then reacted to. I want to start a magazine. I'm going to do an imagination magazine that I can publish and put up on Google Plus on my own for almost no cost whatsoever. And I have a feeling this concept has got some potential in the future. The Handmade Crusade is what I think ultimately we're playing with. The idea that things made, fine artistic things made by hand, to me is the greatest future in everything we've been playing with for all this time. And as each of these concepts get a little bit more pizzazz and a little bit more following, I think they've got a bright future. I've been talking to the governor about the fact that Utah's greatest asset is our state of innovation. We really are a good state for taking ideas and concepts and turning them into reality. And I would like the state, instead of jumping all over the snow and the tourism, to begin to realize the greatest asset we have is innovative ideas and thinking. And if there's any one area in business, sales needs innovative thought. And so we started with these concepts a number of years ago, largely because of my mixture with Jack Solomon. Jack's collection is now finding a home. He's 85 years old, and his $40 million collection of hand-produced artwork is kind of up for grabs as to where it's going to land. He visited with the Dallas Museum yesterday. He's trying to find a home here in Utah, perhaps, but it could go as far away as Israel or Europe and or New York. And when you see the kind of things that his rare fortune has allowed him to collect, and realize there's some impact in the marketplace that we're playing with, oh my gosh, there's some exciting things to play with and take care of. Last but not least is, I think, the best idea of my life. And the boys and I are building a turbine that we think can solve the pollution problem from automotive combustion engines. So it is another turbine idea that's been in the center of our family now for 35 years. And I'm trying to overview for you, to begin with, where my brain plays from. We didn't just start yesterday. This isn't something that I figured out in a college class or I picked up in social media. This has been an evolution of my business career for a very long time now. And when we talk about the side of selling, that tends to work the most. Ron and I talk about this quite a bit. Ron Snaberger's on with us tonight. He's a master from Florida in our circle. And Ron sold all of his life as well. And when we start talking between Tammy and Ron and I, the idea of whether you're selling from a perspective that is a little more polished and a little more concerned from a point of design rather than accident, all of a sudden you start looking at things like this that would increase your focus, reduce your anxiety, increase your creativity, reduce your stress, increase your memory, reduce your pain, increase compassion, reduce depression, increase productivity, emotional balance. If you plug that formula into how well can you pick up on your ideas of selling and doing a better job, you start to have something that really begins to make a degree of focus and an aiming of your efforts, a targeting of what you're about to get into next. And so as I start talking about this new trick, this little tiny secret that I think has so much to do with success, I'm hoping the impact will really be something that will help you in the future. If you can make up your mind that you're going to get really good at the job of selling, just make the decision, the best decision, that in the rest of your life you're going to concentrate on it and really zero in on, business is nothing but selling. And there's no problem in business that sales won't solve. And when I first started bumping into this concept and this idea, I was a dumb dentist, and dentists don't have to sell anything. You open up your door and put your phone number out there, and if you're in the right spot, location, you'll have a business before long. But when you're trying to sell something like what we play with in the world of wants instead of the world of needs, it takes a whole different sense. And instead of something that you hate and try to avoid, I want to try and reverse that whole process and see if we can somehow make this the most unbreakable decision that you've ever made in your life. You're not going to back up on it anymore. You're not going to avoid it anymore. And artistic, creative people, we love all the other things about the product. We could talk about everything that we do to make our products from beginning to end. But when it comes to selling ourselves, we all just choke. And I think it's just so significant to begin to realize that one thing can really change that in your life. You can literally launch a whole new you if you'll just look at how you sell and what you're really selling from a different perspective. Learning how to sell yourself and your work at a master's level is what we're after here. We're not trying to be amateurs. We're going to struggle to see if we can't pull ourselves by our bootstraps up into something that is in the masterly range. Michelangelo said if people knew how hard to master, they would not think it's so great. I'm talking about this level of productivity with selling. And I think people who succeed in the marketplace for a long time, you don't have to tell anybody that this is a masterly level of sculpture. We can see that. But when you're talking about the sales job in the process, there's a whole other thing that goes on. I followed the story of Yvon Chouinard for a long time. And I'm going to tell you this story because he's a profitable hobby story from hell. It is so fun to hear how he got started and how he's done it. But look what he says. The way toward mastery of any endeavor is to work towards simplicity. Replace complex things with knowledge, hard work, and skill. Then knock it off and put a Patagonia trout logo on it. Now, when someone who's done as well as Yvon has done, with Patagonia, they have now 575 million in sales. And I was climbing in the Grand Canyon one year, met one of their product development engineers who had to go to the Grand Canyon to test their backpacks. And I was hiking in and out of the Grand Canyon with a bunch of Boy Scouts, and we spent quite a bit of time talking. And that's when I basically bumped into Yvonne Chenard and began to realize that when someone succeeded really well at what they're doing, wouldn't it be a really good idea for you to target some of the things that he's talking about and see if you can, on a more professional basis, pull this incredibly powerful business tool into your life? Learn how to sell on a better basis. Instead of selling being this four-letter word that we all cuss and hate so much, what if we could shift our thinking and our mentality? Now, often individuals who bump into us have all the subjects and problems in their life going on, just like all of us. And there was a period of time in my life when I had a dream that I had chased to become a dentist for such a long time. And as I finally got myself into dental school, which I felt like was overcoming the most difficult task of all, I ran smack into almost the worst moment of my entire life. I took my very first exam in dental school in Chicago, and I failed it. The very first one. I actually got the worst score in the entire class on the very first exam, 2 weeks into this educational period. And I was so afraid of not being smart enough to finish, not being smart enough to be a dentist anyway. And so I was just hammered at that moment. Just put me in such a terrible spot. But this is the kind of thing that comes along in life when it really can help change your thinking. And what I want you to do is shift your thinking and trying to learn to sell yourself, not the stuff that you produce. We're going to make this something that actually can be a life-changing moment for you as well. And so when you have these kind of times in your life, you start to rethink everything. It's just like a freight train runs up your backside, and when you begin to dawn on you that selling yourself, you are the one we've got to convince the most. Either you've done it a certain way for years and you think you've done it about as good as it can be done, and you still could have so much more inside of you, or you've not figured it out ever. In any case, it's trying to figure out, and it's you that needs to be basically brought into a new way of thinking. Someone's got their mic on again. Can you all check your microphones and make sure you got them turned off? Thank you. If you don't have the master's program and you're not a master participating yet, get the copy of the ebook. Tammy can send it to you. It's all ready to go. And there's a lot in there, because our master's program's not a pussy cake. It's not a fall off the log kind of thing that if you just show up, you're going to be pulled into this exclusive circle of people. Every master has a different approach to their individual unique craft and their art and their work. And so deciding how that works, the process between you and us as we begin to take on this unique goal of developing from an amateur to the master of something, is what we hang out in front of all of our people who pick up our systems. When I first started, I had no idea that this would end up where it has for me, but it will be the same evolutionary process for each of you as well. Started with cutting an eggshell with a high-speed dental drill, and then it opened up every door ever since, and it's pulled my life in a way that I would almost couldn't have dreamed of. But it's been the same thing for each of our masters. When Tammy first started playing with it, she had no idea the impact that she would have in the marketplace, as well as her own individual development of her individual talent. But that's true of Craig Holland, who's one of our other superstars. It's true of Robin Colson now. I don't know how you could get a better start than this girl has. Robin has just opened up all kinds of doors of opportunity, and when you begin to sense that if somebody else can do it, then maybe I could do it as well, you have a pattern to follow. You've got something to shoot at. Greg Woodard won the World Wood Carving Championship in 1993, was our first world champion. But there have been so many that have followed him up the mountain of success ever since. Brian Beatty is just one of the most talented, capable people in our entire circle, and he just constantly keeps stretching the concept of what it means to be a hand-producing fine artist. This is Keith Holm. Keith was our first master in our circle and is now 85 and retired, but he's still carving. He's still producing. He's still got his creative juices flowing. And I just can't think of a better way to grow old than to have a really, really productive hobby that becomes actually a way for you to retire. Now, I watched this whole last week while I was building this show and finishing it off on Google Plus stream for an entire week, and I have a massive stream. I follow so many people and have a lot of friends now, and there was not one post on this whole week on selling. Not one. There was everything else, but no one's talking about the actual selling process. And I just dawned on me when I finally stumbled onto this concept. I'm going, my good Lord, is this concept important? Because if you never learn how to sell professionally, the odds are that you're not going to do very well. And if you keep trying to accomplish this studying and learning for the pattern instead of by accident, you're trying to figure out how does it work and how can I do it more by design than by accident. You just can't keep going forward with a business and not develop this side of your business marketplace, because this really affects your personal self-confidence. If you think you can stand in the marketplace and not have somehow exude this element of self-confidence that you know what you're doing. If you don't think you can, then you can't. Because mastery comes from the commitment of ongoing learning and practice. What you do want to master, and then what action do you need to take to accomplish it. And so when you step up to the plate, you have two basic mentalities. Either you've hit the ball often enough, you just don't even question yourself anymore. You know that when you step up to the plate, you got an awfully good likelihood of making a sale. Or you've missed the ball every damn time you've swung, so therefore your confidence is basically in the trash can, and there's no way that that's going to work. When you're so full of fears, there's no space for the dreams, and this is such a huge concept when it comes to selling. So no one can go back and make a brand new start. Anyone can start from now and make a brand new ending. Is that not just the coolest thought? The coolest idea that says, well, I don't care where you are at this point in your life. We can stitch together a whole new ending. And wouldn't it be incredible if you learned how to sell yourself better? This is where the rubber meets the road. You're either not so good at it or you really are good at it. And we've got to measure that. We've got to kind of look at it instead of just guessing, how am I doing? Wouldn't it be great if you could literally measure that somehow? I don't think I should try to sell myself. I hear this all the time. I let my artwork speak for itself. And I go, boy, is that not mud on the wall, and hope like hell something sticks. Tomorrow when we go through this art show, there'll be 150 artists there. There's 250,000 people come. It's a major art show. And it's so interesting to stand and watch Denny go to work, because Denny's prices of his gourd art now are substantial. But Denny's come down the road 20 years now and gets extremely good numbers for his art now. But when you start listening to him talk, when he's selling his work, he's really selling himself. And he's comfortable with it. It isn't something you've got to shy away from. But most people are brought up in a way that they just have such a terrible time. They just can't figure out how to get past that. So if you're waiting for the teacher to show up, there's got to be some creativity going on. And when this happened to me, and I had just failed my first test in dental school, I left school early because the teacher he just pounded me in the ground because I had done so poorly on the very first exam. And I just was convinced there was just no way in the world I was going to ever be Dr. Lou. It just totally crushed me. And I worked so hard to get into dental school and then to find out I couldn't cut it. So I left dental school and went out to Cherry Creek Mall where McDonald's world headquarters is, and there's a mall there, and I walked all over the mall, and it was it was raining outside. It was an indoor place, and I ended up in the bookstore, and the lady looked at me. She says, "Oh, you don't look well. Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm having a really bad day." And she said, "Well, we have a brand new book that's come out. It's brand new, and maybe it would help you." And she says, "It's not too much money, and it's something that you can read quickly and maybe get something strong out of it." Now, had I had any idea of what this little book right here was going to do for me, I didn't think of myself as a salesman at that point. I was 22 years old and scared to death because I had suddenly waded into something that was way beyond my normal ability. And so we're going to start with the greatest salesman in the world. Now, if you've read it before, please get you a copy out. Find a copy, get something off of Amazon, and get it in your life quickly, because I'm going to cover it in these 8 series. Each of these shows, I'm going to cover each of the scrolls. Mandino came up with the selling concept, which is the core of the story of the greatest salesman. And I'm not going to give that away until the last of the 8 series. But if you can get your copy and begin to literally devour this book, just absorb everything from it that you can. This is the way to chew on a concept until it begins to rub off. And I'm hoping you'll take this about as serious as anything you've ever done, because I think it's the strongest beginning sales tutorial on the planet. I don't think anyone has ever written a conceptual book that helps you to look at sales from a pattern perspective instead of by accident than Og Mandino. And I managed to pull Og into my life and had quite a relationship with him. Can talk about that in the next couple of shows as well. But it literally began to be what I now call my passionate prescription. Once you sense the potential of what you're playing with and can see the future of it, then all hell breaks loose. And the second intersection that came along was Elbert Hubbard's scrapbook. At almost the exact same time this showed up in my life. It was given to my wife. Carolyn's parents gave it to her for a Christmas gift. But I'm the one that opened this book. And the second I cracked Hubbard's book, Hubbard was the guy that invented the coupon for selling, clear back in the 1850s, and made a lot of money. Sold the concept for $60,000, and he decided to go on a world tour. And he ended up in Europe and met William Morris, who was the founder of the arts and crafts movement. And then Hubbard brought it to the United States and started a similar kind of concept in upstate New York. And when I started reading the things that Mandino had written and matched them with things that Elbert Hubbard had written, then I crossed paths with the third element of my new life. James Allen wrote the book As a Man Thinketh, also in the 1800s, and he wrote 18 books. Never realized much success with any of them, but As a Man Thinketh has been published continuously since his death. They have never stopped the publication of this book. It is one of the strongest books out there with helping you to realize that you are the ace in your life. You are the person that does the creative and productive work. You're the one that's making everything happen. And if you think about it in a way that will help you to rethink how important it is that you learn to sell yourself, listen to this concept by Viktor Frankl. Now, Viktor Frankl has a really amazing connection with the I&E Network, particularly with Gary Price, who developed the hand sculpture that we use as our symbol. And I'll talk about that more in one of my other sessions. But he said, don't aim at success. The more you aim at it and make it a target, the more you're going to miss it. For success is like happiness and cannot be pursued. It must be ensued. And it only does so at the unintended side effects of one's dedication to a greater cause than yourself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than yourself. Happiness must happen, and the same holds true for success. You have to take it, let it happen by not caring about it. I want you to listen to what your conscience commands you to do and go on to carry it out in the best of the ability and your knowledge. Then you will live to see that in the long run, I say, success will follow you precisely because you had forgotten to think about it. Now, if that's not the most unusual statement about success that I've ever heard, it should really startle most people. I've been working hard on my next book called Drawn, Not Driven, because I spent half my life being as driven as any human being ever. And then I started to realize that I had all the toys and all the money, but I wasn't happy. And what I wanted was something that was meaningful. And Viktor Frankl spent his whole youth in Auschwitz, prison camps in Germany. And he wrote Man's Search for Meaning coming out of that, became a psychiatrist, because he realized that some people had tools and ability to get through those terrible circumstances better than other people. And then I would find these concepts constantly, things out of Hubbard's writing. The most valuable result of all education is to make you do the thing you have to do when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. It's the first lesson that ought to be learned, and yet actually, however early in a man's training it begins, it probably is the last lesson that we learn thoroughly. And so, yeah, I'm going to talk about the harder application side of making things work with this process of learning to sell and master it. Not stay an amateur anymore. Learn to lay down and trade the cards of your whatever you're trying to trade in the economy on a better basis than just throwing them on the table. Okay? You must do the thing you think you cannot do. God, this is so significant. Such important concepts. The greatest lesson I've learned in my life is that I still have a lot to learn. And when it comes to selling, I've never met yet a really great salesperson who doesn't have this in the center of their heart, because you can constantly do it better. You can constantly rethink things that will begin to improve. So as we start into this process now, trying to rethinking your own selling, I'm going to start into the scrolls. What Mandino came up with was the 10 scrolls that were the teaching tools of salesmanship. And this guy found him and obtained the scrolls, and then the scrolls are what you read to begin to help you to learn how to sell. So I'm going to start with the very first part of this famous book, from the scrolls perspective. Today I begin a new life. Today I shed my own skin, which hath too long suffered the bruises of failure and the wounds of mediocrity. Today I am born anew, and my birthplace is a vineyard where there is fruit for all. Today I will pluck grapes of wisdom from the tallest and fullest vines in the vineyard, for these were planted by the wisest of my profession, who have come before me generation upon generation. Today I will savor the taste of grapes from these vines, and verily I will swallow the seeds of success buried in each and new life will sprout within me. As I started reading this book, I was out in the parking lot. I remember it still. I was in the parking lot of that major mall trying to figure out what in the hell am I going to do with my life now. I had failed. I had hit the brick wall going as fast as I could go. And I could not figure out, but these words began to resonate. The career I've chosen is laden with opportunity, yet is fraught with heartbreak and despair in the bodies of those who failed. Where they pile up, one atop another would cast its shadow down upon all the pyramids of the earth. Yet I will not fail. As the others, for in my hands I now hold the charts, the scrolls which will guide me through perilous waters to shores which only yesterday seemed but a dream. Failure no longer will be my payment for struggle. Just as nature made no provision for my body to tolerate pain, neither has it made any provision for my life to suffer failure. Failure, like pain, is alien to my life. In the past, I accepted it as I accept pain. But now I reject it, and I am prepared for wisdom and principles which will guide me out of the shadows into the sunlight of wealth, position, and happiness, far beyond my most extravagant dreams, even until the golden apples of the garden of Hesperides will seem no more than my just reward. Time teaches all things to he who lives forever, but I have not the luxury of eternity. Yet within my allotted time I must practice the art of patience, for nature acts never in haste. To create the olive king of all trees, 100 years is required. An onion plant is old in 9 weeks. I have lived as an onion plant. It has not pleased me. Now I would become the greatest of all trees, and in truth the greatest of all salesmen. And how will this be accomplished? For I have neither the knowledge nor the experience to achieve greatness, and already I have stumbled in ignorance and fallen into pools of self-pity, and the answer is simple. I will commence my journey unencumbered with either the weight of unnecessary knowledge or the handicap of meaningless experience. This is really significant right here. Unnecessary knowledge and the handicap of meaningless experience. The whole world is struggling with a voice of opinion. Everyone has an opinion anymore. And when you begin to realize that maybe you're not on with your own individual thinking, then all of a sudden you start to see possibilities all over the place. In truth, experience teaches thoroughly, yet her courses of instruction devours men's years, so the value of her lessons diminish with the time necessary to acquire her special wisdom. The end finds it wasted on dead men. Furthermore, experience is comparable to fashion. An action that proved successful today will be unworkable and impractical tomorrow. And that's what's going on in the marketplace right now. Only principles endure, and these I now possess, for the laws that will lead me to greatness are contained in the words of these scrolls. What they will teach me is more to prevent failure than to gain success. For what is success other than a state of mind? This is what we're talking about. This is the new trick. This is what you want to start working on, is changing your own consciousness, your own mental position of how good or how not good you are at selling and salesmanship. Which two among 1,000 wise men will define success in the same words? Yet failure is always described but one way. Failure is man's inability to reach his goals in life, whatever they may be. Failure is man's inability to reach his goals in life, whatever they may be. So if we stop right now and we look at this overall position of here and now, and what you're facing and the struggles, every person out there who will ever hear this recording has a certain batch of problems, a certain stack of opportunities, and it's always an imbalanced position for every one of us. And it is the reality. So how do you make it shift? How do you see if you can't cultivate it in a way that actually becomes more productive for you. As a child, I was slave to my impulses. Now I am slave to my habits. And as all grown men, I have surrendered my free will to the years of accumulated habits, and the past deeds of my life have already marked out a path that threatens to imprison my future. My actions are ruled by appetite, passion, prejudice, greed, love, fear, environment, habit, and the worst of these tyrants is habit. Therefore, if I must be a slave to habit, let me be a slave to good habits. My bad habits must be destroyed and new furrows prepared for good new seed. I will form good habits and become their slave. And how will I accomplish this difficult feat? Through these scrolls, it will be done. For each scroll contains a principle which will drive a bad habit from my life and replace it with one which will bring me closer to success. For it is another of nature's laws that only a habit can subdue another habit. So in order for these written words to perform their chosen task, I must discipline myself with the first of my new habits, which is as follows. I will read each scroll for 30 days in the prescribed manner before I proceed to the next scroll. First, I will read the words in silence when I arise every morning. Then I will read the words in silence after I have partaken of my midday meal. And last, I will read again the words just before I retire at day's end. And most important on this occasion, I will read the words then aloud. Now, I don't know what was in me. I guess it was sheer desperation at the moment. I'd come so far, and yet seemed like becoming Dr. Lee was just out of reach. There was just no way when I'd had such a miserable beginning that I was going to be able to manage and keep going. But when I read these words from Mandino, something really resonated. It just, basically I thought, well, maybe I have been going at this wrong. Maybe there is something here. To begin to have this as a habit to rub off on me in a way that would really help. On the next day, I will repeat this procedure, and I will continue in like manner for 30 days. Then I will turn to the next scroll and repeat this procedure for another 30 days. I will continue in this manner until I've lived with each scroll for 30 days, and my reading has thus become a habit. And what will be accomplished with this habit? Herein lies the hidden secret of all men's accomplishments. As I repeat the words daily, they will soon become a part of my active mind, but more important, they will also seep into my other mind, that mysterious source which never sleeps, which creates my dreams, and often makes me act in ways that I do not comprehend. I think this is so huge. It's like medicine that you take to help yourself perform in new ways, stronger ways than you ever have before. Eventually, I find myself reacting to all situations which confront me as I was commanded in the scrolls to react, and soon these actions and reactions will become easy to perform, for any easy act with practice becomes easy. I read that wrong. For any act with practice becomes easy. As the words of these scrolls are consumed by my mysterious mind, I will begin to awake each morning with a vitality I've never known before. My vigor will increase, my enthusiasm will rise, my desire to meet the world will overcome every fear I once knew at sunrise, and I will be happier than I've ever been possible to be in this world of strife and sorrow. Today, my old skin has become dust. I will walk tall among all people, and they will know me not, for today I am a new man with a new life. And as I read and reread the words of the scrolls, follow, never will I allow the brevity of each scroll, nor the simplicity of its word to cause me to treat the scroll's message lightly. Thousands of grapes are pressed to fill one jar with wine, and the grape skin and pulp are tossed to the birds. So it is with these grapes of wisdom from the ages. Much has been filtered and tossed to the wind. Only the pure truth lies distilled in the words to come. I will drink as instructed and spill not a drop. and the seeds of success I will swallow. And I make solemn oath to myself that nothing will retard my new life's growth. I will lose not a day from these readings, for that day cannot be retrieved, nor can I substitute another for it. I must not, I will not break this habit of daily reading from these scrolls. And in truth, the few moments spent each day on this new habit are but a small price to pay for the happiness and success that will be mine. Now, as I start into scroll 1, it's short. There's not a lot here, but I'm just trying to encourage you to get a copy somewhere. They're in all the old bookstores. Find an old bookstore that's got some stuff. Get it on Amazon. Get one in your life and start playing here. I read the scrolls for 4 years as I was getting through school. I read them on the day I graduated. And nothing has affected me more than just the habit pattern of thinking differently. I'm convinced of that. Today I began a new habit. A new and good habit is born, for when an act becomes easy through constant repetition, it becomes a pleasure to perform. And if it is a pleasure to perform, it is man's nature to perform it often. When I perform it often, it becomes a habit, and I become its slave. And since it is a good habit, this is my will. And how will I act? I will love all manner of men, for each has qualities to be admired, even though they be hidden. With love, I can tear down the wall of suspicion and hate which they have built around their hearts, and in its place will I build bridges, so that my love may enter their souls. And how will I speak? I will praise mine enemies, and they will become friends. I will encourage my friends, and they will become brothers. Always will I dig for reasons to applaud, and never will I scratch for excuses to gossip. When I am tempted to criticize, I will bite my tongue, and when I am moved to praise, I will shout it from the roofs. I will love the ambitious, for they can inspire me. I will love the failures, for they can teach me. I will love the kings, for they are but human. I will love the meek, for they are divine. I will love the rich, for they are yet lonely. And I will love the poor, for they are so many. It is not so that birds, the wind, the sea, and the nature all speaks with the music of praise for their Creator. Cannot I speak with the same music to his children? Henceforth will I remember the secret, and it will change my life. I will greet this day with love in my heart. I will greet this day with love in my heart, for it is the greatest secret of success in all ventures. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy a life, but only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men. And until I master this art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. I will make love my greatest weapon, and none on whom I call can defend against this force. And how will I do this? Henceforth will I look at all things with love, and I will be born again. I will love the sun, for it warms my bones. I will love the rain, for it cleanses my spirit. And I will love the light, for it shows me the way. Yet I will love the darkness, for it shows me the stars. So, as we take this on now, it is my hope that what we're doing here is something that can really benefit everyone, because we take a look at what's going on and we realize how the functioning of our life basically is accomplished. We are a little older generation, most of us playing together, and that really means we've all got habits clear to here. Our habit pattern is so locked in, and our thinking about how things work or how things don't work is so jaundiced, so colored, so firm that it's almost impossible to pull new thoughts and new feelings and basically new opportunities into our lives. And I'd like to make this occasion, this 8-week period, for each of us to basically open up new possibilities and new concepts. we're going to begin to build this specialized team out of our network. We have a database that Tammy emails a newsletter to on almost a weekly basis now, and we're going to keep up with that. But out of that are a certain number of you that want to participate in this new star selling team. And I'm going to learn or teach every one of you how to sell our packages and our systems on an email or on an internet social media basis. I'm convinced that we're very close now. We've just about got everything figured out that would actually make this work. And I can't imagine anything that can change the course of your individual lives more than sell what you produce on one hand and then sell our packages and systems on another hand. They're tried and true. They've been out in the economy for 30 years, and we've had 100 million in sales that should make a dent. The idea that the economy has changed and actually improved more and more for the idea of a profitable hobby. They had on the radio today, Michelle Malkin has come up with a thing called, she's coined a word, I think it's called tinkerpreneur. And she's written a whole book about it, where there's so many people out there that tinker with these little ideas and they suddenly work in the economy and they end up making a dent. They're not the great earth-shaking innovations, but they're just simple little things, a lot like when I spotted the drill, carved the eggshell, and that whole process began to bend my thinking in ways that I just, now I can't hardly even imagine what's happened. And I hope that will be the same kind of function going on here. We coined the idea of the concept of hobbypreneur a long time ago. And I think it's the smartest way to get yourself in business. It's the most important way to kind of stabilize your financial position now, is to have a job here to steady your income and then develop a hobby-based business to where the hobby-based business can overpower a paycheck every week. Then you've got a chance of making it from one world, your as-is world, to something better over here. And so I'm hoping that this will launch that effort. Those who stick with it will come through this 8-week period, and then we'll start into the September shows that I have developed over these last 9 years of webinars. Should just gradually improve that position more and more. Tam, I want you to put in your 2 cents worth here before we wrap it up tonight. Was there anything that stuck out for you with what augmented? You got the meeting too.
That was quite a day.
Yeah, she's got audio problems.
I think one of the most. But you know, I bought the equipment 29 years ago. I came to work for you, and I bought the equipment thinking I always wanted to be an artist, and this was a way for me to become an artist. But I ended up having so much fun with my customers that they became friends. And I was raised in retail. And my mother had a China store. I sold crystal silver in China. And it was an absolute
a little technical difficulties. There we go.
in silver that matched. I only was going to stay long enough to get the equipment, but I ended up
Here you are.
In love.
All these years.
I fell in love with the concept. I fell in love with my customers. I fell in love with being able to share it. So my selling technique has been one of I fell in love. And that's kind of what I think that this is going to end up being, is you fall in love with carving. You fall in love with either gunstock or eggs or gourd It doesn't matter. You fall in love with it. And then you've got to fall in love with selling it, selling you, showing your passion to what you do. And that's
what starts it all. Sorry, she's having some technical problems.
Yes, there's some techniques that you can get the sale and so on and so forth, but and I've listened to those. But it's the passion of what I do. It's a passion for what the equipment can do. It's a passion for the concept and the story.
All right, thank you, dear. Your audio's just not good tonight. Anybody else want to comment now? Turn your mic off, Tim. There we go. Raise your hand.
I'd like to, Lou.
Yeah.
Two things. You mentioned about keeping a journal and how important it is. I called you about 2 weeks ago with something I put together, a quote, and you said, well, it's not quite finished. So I went through my journal and I looked, and all of a sudden things popped together, and I think I have it together. So it's important to keep that journal so you can look back at what you've been doing. If you don't, you're going to forget it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if I wouldn't have been keeping that journal, all those quotes that I looked at that helped me finish and put these words together never would have got together. And here's the quote: "Journey into your heart, where wishes become dreams, dreams become goals, goals become actions, and continued actions become success." It just seemed to fit tonight. I wasn't going to do it.
Yes,
but it seemed to work. The other thing, I know next Friday you're going to be a busy man because you have you're going to be a guest on the show with Arizona Low called Thinking Out Loud. Yeah. And I think I'm going to be co-hosting the show. So everybody,
that'll be fun.
You can post that. I'm sure she'll post it and I'll post it so everybody can follow you on that show and watch you there before we have your show next Friday night.
Okay. Thank you, Ron. Thank you much. Ron has had so much fun with how this has gone this last year or two. Basically pulling social media into his life in such a way that it's the most habit-forming thing I've ever played with. I just absolutely enjoy it because you can mix with the marketplace of people, and bright people who really think about their lives are already on Google Plus so strong, and it's just getting stronger. We're doing pretty well with it. Anybody else got a comment you want to make? Appreciate your participation, and I'm hoping that Og Mandino's stuff's been out in the economy for a very long time, but what Og launched and got started, I've not seen anything that has improved it. Now, I'm going to pull every other major salesperson I can think of into the tactics and efforts that we're going to try and develop here and see if we can't basically put together a format that will take someone from the very basic beginning and begin the building blocks underneath them that help them to succeed at the process of selling. That's what business is. And if we can improve it and figure out how to do it, ought to do better.
Yeah, Lou, I got a statement.
You bet, Mel.
Well, when I first started, I engraved so much and so many things that I had to sell everything that I made so I had more room to make more stuff.
I've heard that story before.
It's a never-ending circle.
Yeah, it's either.
But it's fun.
It's either you go or the stuff goes. One of the two, isn't it? You got to learn to sell.
Yeah, and when you sell the stuff, that gives you more money, so as you can make more stuff.
Pays for the habit. Isn't that amazing how well that works? And then you get to write it all off. I mean, the best part of taking a profitable hobby and doing a decent job of it is the write-off. You can write off the moon here if you just bother to make it enough of a business to be able to do that. And that leverage is the only way to retire. I don't see another good way out there, especially for 80 million boomers, and there's only 15% can retire. That's a lot of people who are just stranded right now and cannot figure out a way basically to move forward. And a power carving, custom engraving little type business is just about as good as it gets. So we will just keep pounding on this little drum and waving this little flag and see what we can accomplish in the marketplace. Appreciate all of your participation tonight, and we're launching the whole new show format. I'm going to put it into the package with the marketing, upscale marketing shows that I do, the branding, personal branding shows that we do, how to price things that we do, aiming the rest of your life. There's some subjects that have been kind of hammered out for a long time that are pretty powerful tools for a new person. The people that I'm talking to tonight are the ones that have been at it a while, and I'm hoping that this will give you a sense of accomplishment, of saying, okay, I've done okay to this point, now what can I do? Can I basically improve that and see if we can make this STARS team of all of us supporting each other's ability to sell systems? See if we can start making that work. All righty, gang. Thank you very much. Appreciate your coming along, and we'll catch you next week at the same time. Good night.